All right. Well, first of all, thanks for the invitation. My talk is definitely going to be an outlier in this conference, but hopefully some of the ideas that I'll touch upon on topics such as collaboration, such as going from one file format to another, workflows between file formats, and as well as reproducibility will, yeah, maybe a little more? Okay. Will relate to the work that you're doing or might be doing in the future. Okay, so let's get started. So I work for Plotly. Plotly is a startup which was founded just about a year ago. Most of us right now work out of Montreal, Canada. We have people in San Francisco and also a few people scattered around the world working remotely. And what I'm going to do today is show you what we're all about. Okay. So what is Plotly, right? So I'm going to start with a few questions. Just to sum it up in a sentence, Plotly is an online analytics and data visualizing tool, and with emphasis on online. That's where Plotly lives, and I'll quickly show you an example of a Plotly graph. So I'm running an IPython notebook, but really all I'm doing is embedding HTML into another HTML document. And HTML from a source, which is here, the Plotly graph. So every Plotly graph is a web page. In this case, you see the URL, plot.ly, tilde, the username of the person that made this graph, and then a unique file ID, which is just an integer. Okay? And basically embedding this web page into an iframe and then into my presentation. And the cool thing about Plotly, so all the graphing, all the drawing is done with JavaScript. And JavaScript is pretty good at dealing with events. So if I hover around this graph, I can get hover text, so the exact values. I can also zoom in. Check this out. If I want a pen, I can do that. All being drawn interactively. Okay, so I double click and I get the figure back, the original figure back. So it's definitely not your typical graph plot figure, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Okay, so then another question. So why am I here? You might be wondering. A quick answer. Turns out you can use text symbols on our graphs. So if you want to annotate, if you want to put a title, annotate the axes, legends, all that stuff. Well, we've got matjax running under the hood, so you can do it. Just a quick example. Again, just embedding HTML into HTML. And here, well, I got some tech symbols. All right, cool. But really, why am I here, right? So that's good. But there's got to be more to the story. And really, it's going to be about some philosophy questions on how to deal with things like collaboration, workflows from one file type to another. And when it comes to philosophy, Plotly applies some of the same, has some common ground with tech, and I'm just going to highlight a few points that to me come up. So tech is cross-operating system, which is nice. So is Plotly. And I think what's even more interesting about tech, so tech is also free, so anybody can use it. And also, it doesn't discriminate between text editors. So whatever, if you like Emacs, Vim, whatever, you can use tech. Okay. And Plotly applies the same principles to plots. So we're free. We're cross-operating system. We're all online, right? So everybody uses the same internet. So that helps us out. And also the last piece is pretty interesting. So we're cross-scientific computing language. Okay, so we're trying to bridge the gap between things like MATLAB, Python, R, just to name a few. Okay, and I'll expand on that last point, and I'll show you an example of a situation that spawned the idea of Plotly. So let's say you're at a conference, you meet someone you want to collaborate with. You have some data files, you have some scripts written in some language. In this case, it's Python, but you know, just for completeness. And you have figures, right? All of which are, in your mind at least, related. But on your computer, they're not, right? They're all kind of separate. And when you want to collaborate, well, instead of just sending one piece, well, you have to send 6 attachments. And hopefully the person that receives the email understands the same computing language as you are. Fingers crossed, usually. But for us, what we're trying to do here, we're trying to solve this collaboration problem. So Plotly graphs are closely connected to the underlying data. I'll show you what I mean later. Okay. Plotly graphs are stored in the cloud. So there's no such thing as going from a local file system to another. All you need is URL. You get your graph. And Plotly provides a common graphing platform for, this is the full list right now. So Python, MATLAB, R, Node.js, Julia, and even Excel users. Okay. So even people, right, so I put Excel at the end, so even people that might not have a programming background, but that still would like to produce graphs, so usually they use Excel, Plotly has a solution for them, okay? So I'll show you an example of what I mean. So here's a snippet of code that produced the graph on the right. So this is taken from our website, just documentation. So it starts out, so this is Python, so it starts out, well, first of all, you have to install the package, but you know, that's one command line away in your terminal. After that, well, you import 2 modules. Actually, we split our package into 2 modules. You sign in, this is my username. And the thing here is your key, which allows you to communicate from your machine to our servers. Everyone has a unique key. You get it when you sign up. I'll show you how that works in a second. So you generate some data. You produce a few traces that we call. So here they're both histograms. You add in some style options. So let's make them a bit transparent so that they overlay well. And then you package all that, and then you make a call to Plotly here. Sorry, there we go. Which sends this object, which is just a dictionary in Python. You give it a file name, and then you get a URL. And then if you click on it, this is what you get on the right. Okay? So it's pretty simple. Now, let's run, how about the same graph, but not using MATLAB, right? So it's the same graph on the right, different code, okay? So different scripts, but the same result. And let's do one more. How about an R? I don't know anything about R, but I know that this works. So yeah, and it's Plotly is cross-computing language. Okay, great. But now you might be saying, I already have code that's generating a bunch of plots. Am I going to have to rewrite all that code into Plotly syntax? Well, the answer is no. Turns out we have converters that do that for you. So let's say you make a graph using matplotlib. I have an example here. Again, this is from our web page. There it is. So some matplotlib commands to generate a graph. And then right at the end, you call a different function from our module. And this automatically converts your matplotlib graph to a plotly graph. I'm not going to say right now that it's perfect yet, but we're definitely going there. Okay. And same for MATLAB, same for R, using the ggplot2 library. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to make a demo. The cool thing about Plotly 2 is you don't have to code to get a graph out. You can also use our web application, which kind of works like an Excel spreadsheet, roughly. So let's do this. So let's get some data. So I got a link here. We're in Portland, so might as well. Let's plot this historical population table. All right, so I could download this, but Plotly allows you to copy and paste from a website to a spreadsheet. I'll show you that in a second. So you go to plot.ly. This is our homepage. You click on sign in. You create an account with your email, a username, and a password. Once that's done, you're ready to go. You don't need to confirm your email. You can start plotting right away. In my case, I made plots before, so I have a username, so I'm just going to use that one. So I'll sign in instead of signing up. And then let's just pray that the connection holds up. Come on, you can do it.
Well, you've got one.
Yeah, all right. Okay, it's working. Okay, cool. Okay, so once you're signed in, this is what you get. And this layout might look familiar. It's a feed that we call, which kind of looks like Twitter, but instead of tweets of 140 characters, they're graphs. So you can see what other users have done. Which is pretty nice. Let's see, you like this graph. Well, I'm just going to like it. Yeah, let's do this. And right, okay. But all right, so for us, I'm not going to spend much time on it. But yeah, you can have fun with this. So right now we've got our data. It's right now in my clipboard. I hit Control-C. We're going to make a new project, and we're going to go directly to the grid, which is what we call this Excel-like spreadsheet running on your browser. Okay, so it takes a bit of time to load. Okay, cool. So this is our grid. Now we're going to copy-paste, hit Control-V, all right? And this is our data inside our grid. So we parse it automatically. It's not perfect, but it works pretty well for most things. So here, the first row, these are going to be our labels for our graph, right? So we right-click, and then let's use row as column headers, right? And now it appears here, the top part. And then we're going to remove this row. This is not data, right? So let's just remove it. Oh, sorry. Hit Control-Z to undo. So remove row. No, this doesn't work. Damn it. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go. All right, no panic. Good. All right, now we got some data. By default, the first column is chosen as our X variable. By default, the second column is our Y variable. Let's call this good enough for now, so let's make a line plot. All right, there it is.
Number in the row 18, you have estimated to how long it will.
Exactly, and I'll get to that later. So here, you see my graph ends at 2010. And here there's a piece of data that's missing. That's fine. Let's go back to the grid. And then let's remove this row. And then here, if we click on this cell, let's remove that estimate. Let's just get a number like every other cell in that column. And then we hit line plot again, and there we have it. Okay, so now our graph goes all the way to 2013. All right, good. So it's not bad. Probably want to add a title, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay. What about a fit? Let's fit the data to a line. So run this fit. All right, so we got a fit. Not bad. R square value of 0.96. And then why not? So let's add that information about the fit onto the plot. And because this is a tech conference, let's convert this to tech on the fly. So insert $2 to call the MatJack library. So let's do times. There we go. I'm going to do one more of those. Okay. And then all a new line. This should work. Once I remove this. Did it work? Okay, good. So it's here. All right, so we kind of see it, but let's make it bigger. So let's go under notes. And let's call it note in Plotly. And then let's increase the font size. It's 18. How about that? Okay, not bad. Okay, good. And then you can move around if you want, something like that, whatever you want. Let's do one more thing while we're at it. Let's change the color of the line fit. So you select which line on the graph, and then style. Let's make this orange. Let's make it bigger too. All right, not bad. Okay, so that's our graph. Okay, pretty easy. Just it's very convenient if you just want to get a graph out.
Shouldn't it be census year instead of census?
Census year, let's do it. Why not? All right. While we're at it, there we go. Okay, so good. So this is our graph, but really, I think one of my main take-home points is, although this is what you see as what you might think as a graph, but really for Plotly, a graph is a JSON object. Okay. So it's for those of you that don't know JSON, it stands for JavaScript Object Notation, just a way to order data, and that's the data file we use. And here we split this JSON into two main branches, so data and layout. So data has all the information about each of the trace that you see on the graphs. In our case, we have two. One with actual data, the x coordinates, the y coordinates, name, type, a bunch of style options if you want. And then the other trace has the line fit that was computed in Plotly. And then layout has things like title and all that stuff. Okay. So that's what we mean by graph, and this is really what our JavaScript plotting library interprets as a graph. Okay. Okay, good. So now, how about we do save? Let's save it. We like this graph. Okay. So we're saving the file. This pops up. This is the graph's unique URL, and in Plotly, you have the option of making your graph public or private, and you see the URL change if you're making your graph public or private. Username and the file ID are interchanged. So let's make it public. You have the choice. You can post it on Facebook, tweet about it, Google+. Embed here puts the iframe tags around your graph. So if you have your own website, you want to get it out on your website quickly, one button away. Okay, so this is good enough. Let's close it. And now let's go to our file folder, and our graph is here. You can rename it. So Portland population. Good. Okay, so we have it here, and here, if I click on link, this is what I get. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Yeah.
You do have a LAN connection.
Yeah, I should have done that.
Oh,
All right, well, it's here, so not too bad. And this is what you get when you actually paste a graph's URL in your browser. So it's more than just a graph, it's got a few more features. Again, it's interactive. Right here, you can, if you want to see it full screen, you can do it. What you can also see, which is really cool, data here is again, once it's loaded, it's the JSON, it's the data inside the JSON object that's making this graph underlying this. And code here, again, yeah, okay, so we have a graph.
What options for language do you have in the code?
Sorry, excuse me?
Pull down on the JSON. What other options were there?
Here? Yeah, right. I'll get to that later. Well, I'll show you.
Could you put R, for example?
Yeah, it's right here. So then, a developer's trick, if you want to get the R syntax, it's the graphs URL.r, and you have it. So if you want to copy paste that in your browser, you can do it. So this is the graphs underlying JSON, but translated into R syntax.
Wow.
Okay, and we can do that for Python, we can do that for MATLAB, Node.js, and also, I'm missing one, Julia. All right, and then when it comes time to collaborate, if I go back to my slideshow, so the rest of the talk, I'll stick to my slideshow. So Plotly rhymes with collaboration and reproducibility. And I'll show you an example in Python. This is what I use the most. So here, I forgot to do one thing. Let's copy the graph's URL. Here, and then this is Python code that I'm running inside this notebook. And then let's paste the graph's URL inside just a function that we made. And here I'm going to print. So what this is going to do, this is going to grab the graph's underlying JSON object and print it right here in your notebook. Okay. So this is everything you need. Every information, every bit of information that goes into the graph we just made, you have it back in your Python session. Okay, and this is really powerful. Let's say you're an editor. You were given this link of the graph we just made. You like it, but there's a few modifications you would like to see before publishing it. This is super easy with using Plotly. Okay, so first I do looking at this code cell. So I again retrieve the data object, the JSON object of this graph. And here it's got a different URL. Sorry, I forgot to do that. So 450, and then let's say the title you want it to be more descriptive. So let's make it the historical population of Portland, Oregon. So then within that JSON object, you update the title key in the layout branch. So it's organized like that. Like once you get around it, it's actually pretty easy. And then let's modify the y-axis label also. Let's make it population full, not just pop. And then for the data, instead of lines, let's just put marker points. Okay, and then once that's done, that's all the updates I'm making on this JSON object. Call Plotly again, get a URL, a new URL in this case. And it's going to open a new tab by default in your browser. And then you have your updated graph. Right? So here, the new title, new y-axis label, and the actual data points are marker points, just as we want it. So this is, again, really powerful for collaboration. You don't have to download or ask someone via email, get me the data file that you use to make the graph. No, it's there. It's just hanging in the background. Every time you see a graph, the underlying structure is written in full in one big JSON object.
URL down.
Yeah, the URL went to the previous version.
Because you previously created it?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Very nice. So here, yeah, so when you specify a file name, and then you, it overwrites it. Exactly. Right. So I had to practice last night. So that's why. So I made, yeah. So let's say I do, instead I make a new file name. Example. So different file name, and this should say 451. There we go. Okay. So thank you. All right. Okay. So I've got well, I just got a last slide of things I'm not going to cover. So again, I showed it to you briefly. So Plotly is also a social network, sort of. So we've got a Twitter-like feed of figures. Also, we have, just quickly, if I go back here, I can post a comment. Nice graph. Okay.
Nice count.
Right. This is a bit weird because I made the graph, right? But just to show you. Okay, so we also allowed users to make private figures if your data set are sensitive. Or, we work kind of like GitHub. So if you have a limit on a free account, you have a limit of private figures. And then if you want more, well, we charge.
That's the business one.
That's the business model. Okay, so it's kind of like GitHub in that sense. We allow users to make streaming plots, which instead of plotting all your data at once and get a static graph, you can send chunks at a time, running in a for loop if you want, to get animations. And our libraries, such as the Python, MATLAB, and R libraries, are open source. So if you see something that you don't like, that you'd like to change, well, we're on GitHub. So. And I'll end it right here. Good question. Well, like I said, I'll show it to you here. So these are our plans. So if you want to make more private figures than what the free account allows you, we charge you. Well, we ask you to upgrade. Let's put it that way. We don't do it behind the back. I want to make that clear. And also our JavaScript plotting library here, plotly.js, that we also ship to companies that would like to maybe expand on what we already did or just use it in-house. Okay.
Question. Second row from
I was just wondering, so I've got this great plot that I'd like to, it's in Plotly, and I want to get it into my tech plot.
Oh, absolutely. I forgot to do that. Sorry. Well, on any plot, let's say you see a plot. So you just have the figures URL. What you do, you hit fork and edit. And this will bring you back to this layout workspace that we call. A couple minutes ago we hit save, now we hit download. Okay, and then, yeah, so I forgot to do that. So thank you. So here, options, PNGs, PDFs, SVGs, EPS.
Is there a URL? My issues are REST.
Well, no, but you can use it via our APIs. There's a workaround.
Sorry, what was the question? I don't
Yeah,
think everyone
so
heard that.
yeah, I'll show you live actually. Yeah, so the question was, can you retrieve a, say, PNG version of a Plotly graph from an API? And I'll show it to you here. Let's make a new cell here, and the command goes, so pi is our module, this our alias for our module. And then see if I remember it. Save as, okay? And then you, once you have the figure object, so it's not actually the URL that you use right now. So you first retrieve the figure object that I call fig, and then you give it a file name. And I just call it test.png. And this will do it. Okay, so you need to first retrieve the data object, and then this actually makes a call to our server that will convert it again and get it back on your local machine. Okay, so you can do it. Yes?
Yeah, sometimes I make graphs with really big number of data points, really big is 100,000 or something like this. Will I break your machine?
Well, I'll show you some extreme examples that I've done. And then let's do this one here. And I'll do this, sorry. Yeah. So it's just a shortcut to go to full screen mode. And it takes a bit of time to load, but there it is, okay? So,
how many data points you have here?
come on, browser. So yeah, so there we go. So this is our, so that's every country of the world. So it's got 144 axes, I think, here. Not much data, but I can show you another example if you want.
No, just give me an estimate.
Actually, I don't have the number remembered by heart, but it is one
You
of
have
our.
the URL? After lunch, we expect a result.
Yeah. But yeah, we made tests. Like, I'll get you a number if you want.
Will, you have a question?
Yes.
This might be, I guess, too technical while they're asking a question now, but can you just clarify how it links in with the same MATLAB? Am I correct in thinking that you have MATLAB commands that write or create an JSON file, and then you have other MATLAB commands which then plot that file with MATLAB?
No. Actually, all the plotting is done in JavaScript. So whenever.
Oh, so you can't say if you wanted to plot it in MATLAB, you have to use your own plotting stuff.
What do you mean by plotting in MATLAB? As in with MATLAB commands, or as in getting a
So I
MATLAB?
guess the reason I'm asking is that often in MATLAB I'll be producing graphs and whatever.
Yeah.
And you want to do that with MATLAB because you're iterating and exploring the data and whatever.
Right.
And then eventually kind of freeze it and say that's what I want.
Yeah, correct. Well, what I recommend doing in that case is to make a temporary folder on our servers. It's easy to do. You just add a folder name and your file name. And
so all your plotting in MATLAB will go in directly.
yeah, exactly. And then once you're done exploring, delete those, and then make a final version.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I have one. Your data input, are you going to embellish it so you can decide on delimiters and all of that before you copy into your cell set? You said it just goes by defaults, and usually it makes sense. Space delimiter.
I personally, I don't know the task at hand in the near future for this project. But I mean, we're definitely, one thing I can't tell you is most of our traffic right now comes from this web application, Excel-like spreadsheet. It's mostly used by high school students as an alternative to Excel.
That's much nicer.
So if I had to bet, I'm sure people are working on making this even better. Okay.
What?
Sorry to ask again.
Go ahead.
Have you, or do you know if there are any plans to speak to academic publishers about this? It would be so cool to be able to click on a graph and a figure.
Copy?
I'm sure. I'm sure someone already did. Like, if I'm here, someone did some work to get to hand it a few business cards. So yeah, but yeah.
Any other? We're spilling over to lunch, so that's okay. Any other questions?
It's okay. I have, by the way, I have T-shirts if you want.
Okay. Medium.
Yeah, I have a few.
I will take.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just go and consider.